This afternoon on DC News Now, flight risk, an au-pair denied bond, and for the first time we're hearing details in the double murder case she's connected to. 6 days missing, now found. A man with Down syndrome is back with his family, where he was found, and why that's raising questions about the police search. Maine mass shooting. We're live as the search for Army Reservist Robert Card covers land and water. Early voting in Virginia ramps up tomorrow with Election Day less than a week away. This as the Inspector General investigates the removal of names from the voter registry.
The station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
And good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the news at noon. I'm Mark Hall. Developing now, for the first time, we're hearing details and conflicting stories of how a wife was stabbed to death inside of her Reston home, and a man who showed up to meet her that morning shot dead. The family's au pair, Juliana Perez Magalis, is charged with killing the man, Joseph Ryan, inside the home in late February. She's been in jail since her arrest 2 weeks ago. Her attorney told the court that Magalis acted in self-defense. They say the wife and Ryan met to have sex, and the husband and Nanny found Ryan stabbing the wife, Christine Banfield. They say the husband shot Ryan first, and the nanny shot him a second time out of fear. The state, however, made the case that the shooting was part of a bigger plan for the nanny and her lover, Christine Banfield's husband, to be together. They showed recent pictures inside of the home with framed photos of the nanny and husband together displayed around the house. The au pair, who is from Brazil, was denied bond because the judge agreed that she could be a flight risk and said that the nature of the charges with the use of the gun was a concern, too. Well, mourners are paying their respects this hour to Judge Andrew Wilkinson. He was killed in his driveway last week. Police say by a man he ruled against that very same day in a divorce case. That man, Pedro Argote, was found dead just yesterday, bringing some relief to the Wilkinson family and community. Our Stephen Cohen has been covering the story and is outside the church where the judge's funeral was held this morning. Stephen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mark. Here at St. Anne's Catholic Church, just north of Hagerstown, a very large crowd here gathered all morning, security very tight. We are told that Governor Wes Moore was in attendance at this service. Judge Wilkinson's widow, Stephanie, she said that she has been so touched by the outpouring of support for her family from friends, co-workers, state and local leaders, and she's especially grateful for the response from law enforcement when her husband was gunned down in the driveway of their home at 8 p.m. a week ago Wednesday night. Now, Judge Wilkinson was born into a Navy family. His dad was stationed in Guam in 1971 when Judge Wilkinson was born, and he went on to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill to earn his college degree. Then he went on to Emory Law School in Atlanta to get his law degree. He was a clerk here in Washington County for the court system. He became an assistant county attorney, went into private practice, and in 2018, then Governor Larry Hogan appointed him to the Circuit Court, one of 6 judges to sit on that bench. And in 2019, he actually started as a judge when that term began. He was active in the community with the YMCA, the Rotary Club here. He is survived by wife Stephanie. They had a son and a daughter. And yesterday, Sheriff Brian Albert of Washington County, he said it's certainly not total closure, but about this time yesterday, they discovered the dead body of Pedro Argote, who is accused of committing that fatal shooting in the driveway of the Wilkinson home last week. The body of Argote is now at the medical examiner in Baltimore. We're hoping to get some details on that. And all this came about as the result of a very contentious divorce proceeding, child custody proceeding in Judge Wilkinson's courtroom. Reporting live from St. Anne's Catholic Church in Hagerstown, Stephen Cohen, DC News Now. Back to you, Mark.
Stephen, thank you. Montgomery County man with Down syndrome missing for 6 days is back with his family right now. Rashawn Williams' father was on a desperate search for his son all week. Rashawn, 31, went missing from an adult day program in Burtonsville. He was found last night in a back room inside of the Glenmont Metro Station. Now, we're working to get some answers today, including how Rashawn or anyone could go unnoticed for 6 days inside of the Metro Station. And we'll have that update for you today starting on DC News Now at 4. Well, the search for a mass shooter in Maine stretches into day 3. The key suspect is Army reservist, 40-year-old Robert Card. He's accused of killing 18 people Wednesday night at a bar and bowling alley. Right now, more than 100 federal and local investigators are searching for him. According to one U.S. official, Card underwent a mental health evaluation in July for erratic behavior. And take a listen to law enforcement responding shortly after the shooting.
County 7, I don't know if any description has been given out for the Schmange's one, but again, a black sweatshirt, male with black sweatshirt, last seen headed toward the treatment plant.
White male with a shirt around the back with a beard, a rifle. 1-8 County, he's probably referring to the water treatment plant just north of Schmange's.
That's the way she saw him running toward, but she couldn't give me anything else.
18 people have died, 13 others have been hurt, 3 people are hospitalized in critical condition. And coming up at 12:30, DC News Now's Tosin Fakile joins us live from Maine with an update. And a quick reminder that we'll keep you updated on air and online as this story continues to develop. Just go to dcnewsnow.com and type Maine in the search bar in the top right corner. All right, meteorologist Damon Matson joined us now with the latest check on the forecast. Damon, I'd be remiss if I did not say, first of all, happy Friday. And secondly, the sun continues to shine, my friend.
Happy Friday to you as well, Mark. And yes, indeed, that sun continues to break through some of the clouds that are out there, and that is continuing to give us this very warm stretch that we are on. And late last night, the National Weather Service went over some of the numbers, and it turns out we actually had 2 records broken and 1 record tied with those high temperatures yesterday on your Thursday. There we have it. Baltimore, Dulles reaching up to 83 and 84 degrees respectively there, breaking the old records at those locations set back in 1978. And Martinsburg reached 79, which tied the old record set back in 1920. So there you have it. We finally saw some records broken yesterday. And really, as we went on into the night last night, given a good amount of cloud cover that stuck around, it stayed rather mild as we went on throughout your Thursday night. Look at these low temperatures from early this morning. It only got down to 62 in D.C., 61 in Winchester, with plenty of 50s filling in across the rest of the map. So with that mild air sticking around, it has not taken long for us to jump right back into the 70s, and it's already up to 77 in Leesburg and Manassas, 78 down across portions of north central Virginia there. We only have a little bit of cooler air back toward Cumberland, parts of western Maryland, where some cloud cover, light drizzle continues to hang on. So expect more of the same here today, folks. We're going to have that mix of sun and clouds, with the exception of some cloudier skies, light drizzle in the mountains. Temperatures as a result will be jumping back toward the lower 80s, and we have the chance to possibly tie or break more records out there today. So just how much longer is this warm stretch going to hang on? And are we still talking about some rainfall as we get into the start of this weekend? We'll have a full check of your forecast here in just a bit.
All right, Damon, thank you. In Greenbelt, Maryland, 4 people tried to kidnap a newborn. That's according to police, and they say the mother was walking along Edmonston Road with her baby in a stroller last evening. Police say she told them that 4 people pulled up in 2 dark-colored cars and tried to take the baby. She says that she was able to run away while being punched repeatedly. Police have not given out any detailed descriptions of the suspects. Well, DC News Now is your local election headquarters, and we're just 1 week away from Election Day. And in Northern Virginia, polls open for in-person voting for the first time tomorrow. DC News Now's Lex Juarez tells us what Virginia voters need to know.
First and foremost, if you're one of those people who wants to be an absentee ballot voter, it's not too late to get that request in. You do have until the end of the day today to get that request in and get your absentee ballot. And there are multiple ways for people to do that. Now, probably the most easiest way is going to be going online to get that request in. You can go to the Virginia Elections website and go to the citizen portal to put in that request. You can also contact your registrar's office to do that that as well. Those requests do have to be in by 5 o'clock this afternoon. And then, of course, once you have that ballot, it does have to be postmarked by Election Day. Now, anyone who is planning to participate in early voting or Election Day in general, you can find a list of candidates and a sample ballot on the election website as well. I was able to get one of those ballots today and print them off. There are lots of important races on the ballots, both very local races as well as races that are going to impact politics statewide in the Virginia House and Virginia Senate. So it's very important, of course, that people come out and not only familiarize themselves with the ballot, but come out and make their voices heard and cast that vote. Now, early voting is going to be starting tomorrow. That's going to be in-person early voting starting tomorrow and going for the next week until Saturday, November 4th. That's going to be the last day that people can vote early in person. If they do miss that whole next week of early voting, they will still have that opportunity, of course, to vote on Election Day, November 7th. In Fairfax County, I'm Lex Juarez, DC News Now.
All right, Lex, thank you. And we have new details this morning on the Virginia voter rolls mix-up. More people could have been wrongfully removed than initially reported. Originally, officials believe that about 275 Virginia voters with probation violations were removed from the voter rolls, and that was due to an error by Virginia State Police that wrongly classified those voters as having a new felony conviction. Experts believe that more people have yet to come forward about the mistake.
We continue to receive reports nearly on a daily basis, along with other partners that are working in the space, of people that have not been reinstated. And I've personally spoken with people who are scared to even speak to attorneys or speak to the Board of Elections or reach out to the administration for fear of being punished.
The Department of Elections has not responded yet to tell us how many voters have been affected. Well, one town in Prince George's County is tackling reckless driving in the region. Cottage City leaders say that they're seeing an increased amount of commuters driving through the area to avoid traffic, and that these commuters are ignoring stop signs. The city launched a pilot program using artificial intelligence to catch drivers. The city says that nearly 60% of drivers failed to fully stop at stop signs at the start of the experiment. Over the course of 4 weeks, deterrents such as increased police presence and camera zone signs were added to stop sign areas. Officials say that they saw a 76% decrease in people speeding through stop signs and a 48% decrease in people failing to stop at all. They believe that this surveillance system discourages reckless driving and saves officers time on patrol. Well, WMATA says that red line closures are coming in December as they make critical safety repairs to the tracks. There will be no red line service between DuPont Circle and Gallery Place, and that's scheduled from December 18th to December 30th. Orange, blue, and silver lines will be running at Metro Center. However, both entrances on G Street Northwest will be closed. And from December 22nd to the 24th, the Judiciary Square station will be closed.